Namaste, let's go live on another bicycle live stream. It's Sunday, August the, 16th today, if I've got my dates correct. Just after 7 a.m. I've ridden 30 kilometres and it's a nice cool 12 degrees, but it feels good to be alive. Just been taking some amazing photographs this morning, which I'll be sharing on my timeline in a short while. So, as I ride around beautiful Varsity Lakes, I wanted to talk about strange human behaviour and relate it back to the famous Spock saying from Star Trek, "It's just not logical, Captain." So I'm going to relate it back to logic and with a little bit of just reminiscing, if that's the right word, or thinking back to when I was young, and how I lived my life very much in the realm of logic, and if things didn't make sense, then I couldn't see the value in them. And so I very much related to, and I still do, very much relate to the theme that was presented in Star Trek, the battle between the logic of Spock and the emotion of Captain Kirk. And I put together a list a few weeks ago of illogical, strange behaviour that this human species seems to do. And I don't consider, I'm travelling in a human body, but I really don't consider myself part of the human race. If I could avoid being part of the human race, I'll do my best to avoid it. From the youngest age, I've tried to avoid it. It's like, well, I'm stuck here, I'm going to have to put up with it, but I don't want to identify with it too strongly. There's just not a lot of logic in the way that people do things, especially what I observed as a younger kid, and so I wanted to share some of these illogical behaviours, and maybe you could contribute some of your own. I did a similar thing a bit over a year ago, last year I think, but it was more a case of just thinking about behaviours that were just annoying. This is more about behaviours that are just illogical, that just don't make sense. So let's start off with, say, one that I remember from years ago, and it really taps into people's laziness and the attitude of it'll be all right. And that was the one where a person on their way to some markets had their van full of all their market gear, and they pulled up the service station, filled up with petrol, went inside, came back out, the van was gone. Why? Because they didn't take their keys out of the ignition. So it was like, really, how hard is that to do? There's, yeah, and the thing that made it more memorable for me was the person saying, "Oh, everything I had was in there, and had all my, I can't afford to replace my market equipment, and it wasn't insured," and I'm like, okay, so really, you made a decision to leave your keys in the ignition, knowing the value of that to you and how irreplaceable it was to you. Surely that simple hand movement of just doing that, pulling the keys out of the ignition, popping them in your pocket, could have saved so much heartache and financial disadvantage. And see, it's not logical, is it? That laziness in that sort of situation, it's just not logical. So this is a sort of behaviour that I've observed from a very young age and continue to observe, and just think, wow, humans are so strange. They just do such strange things. To quote a line out of the movie Contact, where the alien says to Ellie that humans are capable of such beauty and yet such evil in their thoughts. And I think that's not the exact quote, but that's what he was saying. And we're capable of amazing achievements but we're also capable of amazing disasters and despicable evil, and it's just not logical. So with that in mind, I've put together a list, and top of the list of things that aren't logical is putting together a list and losing it, which is what happened to me a few weeks ago when I put it together, stored it on my desk with other lists of things that I wanted to talk about, and then was unable to find it amongst all the other lists. So, was that logical? No. I'm not sure what category that fits into. But let's bring up one that's become really, really prominent. It's the use or the overuse of the word literally. I heard somebody the other day in a video saying, my heart literally sank into my stomach. It's like, wow, well, that's quite a medical achievement. I'm sure that if you've managed to do that and you're still alive, pretty sure the doctors would want to see how that was possible for your heart to literally sink into your stomach. But see, this is a sort of way that we go, because over a period of time, things in the material realm lose their value, and we have to emphasize more in order to achieve the same impact, if that makes sense. So we've started using the word literally to emphasize something more than what it is. I heard the other day somebody said, I literally died. No, you didn't. No, you did not literally die. If you literally died, you wouldn't be making the video you're making now. So when you start looking for it, I have to laugh at the absurdity of it. But just the use of the word literal, it's literally ridiculous. So moving on, in the same arena would be the illogic of not reading instructions, especially when you've purchased, and let's say purchased for a great deal of money, a new product. You're setting it up, and once again you're overcome with that wonderful false ego, don't tell me what to do sort of attitude. That false ego of, I'll figure it out, I know what I'm doing, the whole, let's forget the fact that the manufacturer put instructions there to make it easy for you to assemble and use to get the maximum benefit out of whatever product you've purchased, to emphasize how it functions, what features it has that you may not be aware of. Let's not forget that the manufacturer probably knows way more than you. Probably, not always. There have been cases where the person purchasing the product is so well researched that they know more than the manufacturer. That is possible. But in the majority of cases, the manufacturer making the product will have more research, more knowledge, more experience about the product than you, and has provided instructions to make it easier for you to assemble, use, etc. Get the maximum benefit out of the product. So I really am amazed how many times I come across people that have failed to read instructions, and then the consequence of that is that they just cannot get use out of their product that they want to. And going back to my first example there, talking about the lady that had her van stolen from the service station because she didn't take her keys out of the van. And I mentioned insurance. Well, that's another one that really amazes me. That's just not logical. Is that you purchase an expensive item and you don't insure it, and then when it gets stolen, damaged, is involved in an accident, something like that, you complain. It's like, well, you made a decision to save $50 a month or something so you could spend it on alcohol or cigarettes or something like that, instead of insuring something that if it got lost, stolen, or damaged, it would cause a major inconvenience to you. So again, it's not logical. If you can't afford the insurance for whatever the product is you're purchasing, then I think you need to reevaluate if you can really afford it. Insurance is something that should be factored into the cost of something you're purchasing, unless you're quite happy to lose that product, then fine. Then don't factor insurance in and just take the risk. But that's the decision you make, rather than complaining later, oh, this happened to me. It's like you made a conscious decision to not insure it. So quit your whinging and just accept the responsibility of the decision you made. So while I'm out on the road here, you may notice it's magpie season. You may be able to tell that because my helmet has a little thing sticking up from it. When I'm out on the road riding a bicycle, I see a lot of illogical behaviour. A lot of it from drivers, but also, car drivers, but also when I'm out on the paths, I'm on the road at the moment, the way that pedestrians and other bike riders perform their duties is, But, I mean, talking about that part, I'll get back to the car part of it, but talking about that, I've come around blind corners, and there's one up at Nobby Beach, and it's a blind corner. It's a path. It has a left and a right with a little yellow line on it showing the direction for bicycles to go. I keep to the left. I've come around that blind corner a number of times, and road riders are coming around, maybe a small pack of them, on the wrong side of the path. There's a path, a shared path with pedestrians and bike riders. And I'm like, wow, do you not understand the keep left rule in Australia? Do you not value? Oh, geez, there's that magpie. Hence the can you see it? Woo, I can hear him. Hence, yes, you're doing a good job there. Yeah, keep doing it. Actually, that's the reason why I've got these things with the helmet, because I went past here yesterday and he said hello. He's a bit more vicious this morning. No, was it yesterday? No, it was Friday. Anyway, there's another one. Magpie season. What's the first thing you do? Friday I'm out riding, magpie comes along, that one particular one, said hello in that aggressive manner. I went, right, going home, putting cable ties at the top of this rise now. Going home, putting cable ties on the helmet, which I did. It's just logical. It costs next to nothing for these things to just keep a magpie a little bit at distance, These are logical things. And so talking about bicycles on paths and watching bicycle riders come around blind corners on the wrong side of the path is watching the behaviour of pedestrians who, admittedly, if they're not bike riders, I'll give them cut them some slack here. If you're not a bike rider, you're likely to just walk or wander all over the path. It's sort of understandable. So I guess, because I'm riding a bike, when I'm walking on a path, I don't just decide to wander across the path without checking behind me to see if a bike's coming. And I see people just change direction and you're like, whoa, guys with surfboards under their arms, they're walking along, they just completely block the path. They just turn sideways, surfboards across the path. All of a sudden you go, well, hey, you're reaching for your brakes. So that's something that you get used to when you're riding a bike. One of the things I love about riding the bike early morning is that there's a whole lot less of that. This morning's been really peaceful, really not a lot of people around. My favourite sort of ride. I love it. Anytime, in fact, the less people, the better. So you get to the point where there's nobody around and it's just as close as perfection as I'm going to get in this existence. But so going back to talking about people in cars and their behaviours, a lot of what I see with the way people drive comes from a lack of proper road driving education or car driving education. When I was in school, I did a defensive driving course, and I learnt quite a number of things that aren't taught to you, or at least wasn't taught to us then in just your regular driver training. So it's one of the things I see, and it's not only incorrect, but it's also a little bit dangerous, is people at intersections that are turning, instead of just turning, they swing out before turning. They swing out almost into the lane of the car beside them and then turn the other. So if they're going right, turning right, they'll swing left and then they'll turn right. It's completely unnecessary. Unless you're driving a truck, you do not need to give yourself that distance or that space to get around that corner. It's just completely unnecessary. So it's also dangerous. If you're the car sitting beside the car that decides to swing wide, it'll freak you out. Now, I've seen it a few times happening ahead of me, and I've had it happen when cars been right beside me. They've just decided, swing wide, and they're nearly into my lane. I'm like, seriously, is your vehicle that big? And of course it's not, it's just a regular vehicle. But it's just a case of poor driving skills. Another one is the 2-second rule, which is the 4-second rule in the wet, which is again, people just following too close to the car behind. They do not give themselves the 2 seconds, which is required in dry driving and 4 seconds in wet driving, to stop a vehicle that weighs possibly a couple of tonne doing a speed of, possibly 100 kilometres an hour. It's a really simple rule if you don't know it. As whatever speed you're doing, you look at the car in front. As it goes past a marker like a light post, a signpost or something like that, you count 1001, 1002. At that point, you should either be going past that post or that whatever that marker was. You should either be going past it, be no closer to it. Maybe you're further back. If you're closer to it, then there's a problem. So then you distance yourself back, and you double that in the wet. Again, this is just simple logic for when you're manoeuvring a vehicle that weighs a couple of tonne. You want to be able to stop it in time to not crash into the car in front, especially when you decided you weren't going to get insurance. So, back to bike riding. I have seen lately, and it astounds me, in fact the other night, a couple of nights ago, girl riding her bike. I was coming back from the beach. It was completely dark. She was riding a bicycle, no helmet, no lights, on the wrong side of the road, in the dark, and I wasn't sure how to react. I almost felt like going ahead and warning the car that I could see in the distance that was coming along to be careful, because there is somebody on a bicycle with no head protection, no illumination, in your lane heading towards you in the dark, and you cannot see them until you get close to them. That is, I don't know how to describe somebody who values their life so little that they would do that. Unfortunately, I see quite a few people doing it, and the only one that I think that makes it even more ridiculous is riding a bicycle without a helmet, a form of head protection to protect the most important component of your body, your brain. Without it functioning properly is going to be a problem. I've seen it several times, people riding bikes with the helmet hanging off the handlebar. Now, at that point, I'm just like, okay, so you've got the helmet. Explain this logic to me. You've got the helmet. You're hanging it off the handlebar. How does that protect your brain? How in any way is that of any benefit? I really feel like stopping and either asking them that or giving them the Darwin Award, because it just defies logic. It just blows my mind. How is this even possible? That, you know, they're doing it because if they get pulled over by the police, they can probably, that's my assumption, they can probably say, oh, I've got my helmet. It's not, you know, to them, the reason for having the helmet is a legal requirement, not a protect the most important part of your body requirement. Oh boy. So another one that really astounds me, and my nephew proved the importance of this, is when you're a passenger in a car and you put your feet up on the dashboard. In a modern car, it'll have an airbag. Do you know what happens when the airbag goes off? Well, my nephew found out, and you know, I've seen people doing this right along the car with their feet on the dashboard, and you know, I've wondered if they're really aware of how explosive the airbag actually is. And you know, my nephew found this out, but to just tell this story, a few decades back, I was at a car show, and they had a demonstration of an airbag exploding, and you know, there's a crowd of people standing there. They're all waiting for the airbag to explode. They've all been told it's going to go off, but they haven't been told exactly when it's going to go off. So they're waiting, and then it goes off, and everyone jumped. So they knew it was going to go. So explosive, so loud is it, and so explosive and so sudden, and everybody's just like in shock, just this big bang. Well, anyway, my nephew was in his Audi, and his wife was driving. They had an accident. The airbag went off. He had his feet up on the dashboard. Now, he's a footballer. He's fit. He's very, very fit. So he was fortunate. He ended up with the imprint of the airbag, of the dashboard material, I think it was, in the bottom of his feet, and they got compressed into his, like his whole legs just got compressed into his chest. Because of how fit he is, he was able to handle it and survive it. If you're an average person sitting in a car, feet on the dashboard, have an accident, airbag goes off, you easily can break your legs. Easily. It's happened before, and so it's recommended that you put your feet on the thing called the floor. That's where feet go. So the other one, talking about cars, is, and this is super dangerous, is people that are just, sadly, too lazy to reach forward to the thing next to the steering wheel and turn on the lights when it is so dark outside. This is going to be fun. I'm going to do this live stream while going through this gate. You can't see what I'm doing here, but you'll hear it. Can you hear it? Yeah. So, sadly, so lazy to reach forward like a couple of inches and turn a switch, which will, wish me luck, see if I can do this, which will illuminate, oh, I can do it, wow, their vehicles so that other people can see them, and will illuminate the road so they can see where they're going. Time and time again, I'm seeing this dawn and dusk, people driving along, no headlights. I'm like, okay, I don't understand. This is not logical, Captain. How do you know where you're going? How do other road users, car drivers, bicycle riders, furry animals, how does anyone see you coming? Now, I nearly got cleaned up by one of these cars maybe a year or two ago. Riding to work, it was early morning. The sun hadn't come up. It was only a slight bit of light. And I'm riding along on the road. I go across the road. I look behind. Yep, fine. Go across, and phew, I'm like, what the hell was that? I'm thinking, I couldn't see the car coming. I didn't hear it coming, which did surprise me. I don't know how I didn't hear, because normally you'd hear the tyre noise. Even electric cars, you hear the tyre noise. Amazing how noisy electric cars are, but anyway, it's a whole different story. Yeah, just like I went, jeez. It freaked me out a bit because it was pretty close. So that's another one. It's just not logical, Captain. How about people that get in your car, every time they get in your car as a passenger, they forget to put on the seatbelt? And if it was not for the fact you start driving and the warning goes beep, 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 and you go, can you put your belt on, please? I've got friends, and I won't say who religiously never put the seatbelt on until the beeping's going, and then I have to say to them, could you put a seatbelt on? I'm thinking, how is it that every time you've got in a car, you forget to do that? How are you not trained into doing that? Again, it's not logical. It's, when you learnt to drive, when you get in cars, you put a seatbelt on. It's just, anyway. See what I mean? Humans are such strange people. Well, we've got a few more things here. People going to gyms, that if they go in the gyms to exercise, they want to exercise, they want to be fit, but they all need to park near the front door. You get this in shopping centres too. People, but it's different. They're not going there to exercise. You're like, hang on a second, you're going there to exercise. Does it matter where you park? You could park in the next suburb and exercise on your way to the gym. Then you wouldn't have to go to the gym. So you see that it's not logical. What else? A couple more. And I tell you what, on some more serious notes though, where I'm riding here is beautiful too. I'm on the boardwalk circuit here in, where is this? This is Schuster Park, which is absolutely beautiful to ride through. All you'll see on the live stream, of course, is the trees behind, and it's a little bit of a bumpy, rocky ride, but there is a beautiful boardwalk just ahead, which I'll get up to there in a second. Morning! So, back on topic, talking about serious things is, that's better, is, I'm on the boardwalk now, is injustice. Injustice is not logical. We finally got to a serious part of this. Injustice, there is no logic in injustice. There is no logic in the lack of compassion. There is no logic in treating others in a way that we don't want to be treated ourselves. It's energetically irresponsible, it's morally and ethically irresponsible, and it's just illogical. And when I see the human race, the human species doing this, ever since I'm a kid, I have not been able to comprehend it. I have not, even like school kids that thought it was funny to pull the wings off flies or step on ants or cockroaches. It's like, where's the logic in this? It's not logical. It has to be logical. Even love is logical. It makes sense that we come from love and we search for love all our life. That's logical. But, this need for somebody to want to destroy life it's both sad and not logical. Although, having said that, it is a reflection of their inner torment. So, from that perspective, it is logical. And I think I'll start finishing up. Another thing that's not logical is, talking about serious things, is people falling for misdirection. And we're seeing this a lot. We've been seeing this a lot lately, and with the excuse for a president in the US who is incredibly good at one thing, which is misdirection, and incredibly obvious at misdirection, which is why it's not logical that people fall for this misdirection. It's very, very sad that when somebody is causing such destruction to the environment, responsible for removing laws, environmental protective laws, that are then going to be, the removal of those laws are not only going to destroy more environmental areas and create more pollution, but they're also resulting in more animals being hunted and fished, and that sort of thing happening, and other laws that are protecting human rights as well. When you see someone remove 100 of them, and I think he's got 65 of them removed so far, and another 30 something that he's working on. you think, wow, why would you fall for the misdirection? There's a real common theme where people come up and go, oh yeah, but he's stopping the child sex trade or something like that, which of course is actually easily disproven as well, because he has reduced, not increased, the amount of effort in that area. And I've posted posts about that as well. So Bolman was doing a lot more than he was. And so people fall for the misdirection. Oh yeah, but he's really a good guy, he's helping the children and all the rest. It's like, have you never watched a magician? Have you never seen how misdirection works? That's how it works. It's like, oh, look over here and forget what I'm doing over there in the name of greed to help all my business mates. So that's not logical, and I find it, it's very sad that people fall for that. And finally, let's finish on one that I've talked about once before, which is a really silly one. It's leaving the toilet light on. Now this, after years, still doesn't make sense to me. And people have tried to explain it to me. I've gone, no, there's no logic in what you just said. So, what it is, and it comes from a situation that, at home, if you go into the toilet and it's dark, you don't have natural light in there, what do? Turn the toilet light on. Go to the toilet. What do you do when you leave? Well, I hope you wash your hands at some point. But what do? You turn the light off. The light was off when you went in. If you don't turn the light off when you go back out, it's going to be on all the time. So why even have a switch? Well, that's what you do at home. I don't get the logic of when people come to work, and I've watched this behaviour at work for years now, they go in, the light's off, they turn it on, because it's maybe not bright enough, and early morning, and then they go out, they leave, wash their hands, leave, and they leave the light on. It's like, well, hang on a second, hang on. The light was off when you came in. Why are you leaving the light on? So I go in, I turn the light off, because there's no need for it. And then I leave and it's still off, and then I come back later, and guess what? It's back on again. I'm like, hang on. Do you do this at home? You see how there's no logic to that at all? There is no, it's like, how does that work? It doesn't work. So by that logic, their light would be on in the toilet at home all the time. It would never be off. And so, it's bumpy along here. So yeah, it's a crazy one. I've mentioned it to people before, and people have tried to explain it in a way where I've gone, well, it just doesn't make sense. Why would the behaviour, and the bit that gets me is that the particular toilet I use a lot at work has natural lighting, and so it has, like high skylight type window. So once it's daytime, if it's early morning or if it's overcast or whatever, there mightn't be much light in there. But once it's daytime, it's bright light. It's, as bright as outside. You don't need any additional illumination. And I'll go in there, and out of curiosity, I'll look up to the light on the wall, and guess what? It's on. I'm like, you can't even tell it's on unless you sort of look up to it. So that really, really, really astounds me when I see that. I'm just like, how? It means it's a reflex action. Somebody's come in and switched it on without thinking, and then left it on again. And which brings me back to that thinking of, okay, if it's a reflex action, if they turned it on, because that's what they do when they go in there, then how come there's not an automatic reflex to turn it back off when they leave the room? You see how it's just not logical. Anyway, I hope you've had fun watching this live stream. It went way too long. Remember to live vegan and save lives. Have a great day. Ahimsa.